The first night nearly broke me. The walls seemed to breathe with old grief, the silence was so loud it pressed against my chest, and the air smelled of antiseptic, burnt tea, and something unspoken. I stood in the narrow hallway with my bag still on my shoulder, already questioning every decision that had led me here. This was the place everyone warned me about, the house no one stayed in, the job no one kept. And yet, something inside me whispered that leaving now would be a bigger failure than staying and suffering. Before the story pulls you deeper, let me ask you this from the heart. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of not giving up on people when they are hardest to love, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your small action keeps stories like this alive. I had taken the job because I was desperate, not heroic. My savings were gone, my pride was already bruised, and the world had stopped returning my calls. The listing was vague, almost cold. Live-in caregiver needed. Difficult environment. High turnover. Competitive pay. I told myself I could survive anything for a few months. I didn't know that the real challenge wouldn't be the work, but the woman who lived inside those walls, carrying storms no one could see. She was known in the neighborhood as impossible. People spoke about her the way they speak about abandoned buildings, with curiosity mixed with fear. Widowed young, childless, sharp-tongued, and emotionally sealed shut. Every caregiver before me had left within days, some within hours. They said she tested you, pushed you, broke you down until you either fought back or fled. I didn't fight back. I stayed quiet. And that confused her more than anger ever could. The days began before sunrise and ended long after my body begged for rest. Her health was fragile, but her will was iron. She needed help walking, eating, remembering to take medication, and yet she refused assistance like it was an insult. She criticized everything, from the way I folded towels to the way I breathed. The house echoed with tension, like a storm constantly threatening to break. I learned quickly that this wasn't about control. It was about fear. Fear of needing someone. Fear of being left again. The first week felt like a month. Sleep came in fragments, interrupted by her calls or the creak of the house settling into the night. I scrubbed floors that were already clean, cooked meals she barely touched, and listened to long silences that said more than words ever could. There were moments I stood in the bathroom, gripping the sink, telling myself that quitting wouldn't make me weak. It would make me sane. But each time, I remembered how it felt to be abandoned myself, years ago, when I needed someone to stay and no one did. Slowly, almost invisibly, things began to shift. Not because she softened overnight, but because consistency has a quiet power. I showed up every morning. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. When she pushed, I steadied myself. When she tested, I endured. And when she tried to make me invisible, I remained present. There is something unsettling about kindness that doesn't ask for permission. It disarms people who have built their lives around defense. The house started to feel less hostile, not warmer, but less sharp. I noticed details I had missed before, framed photographs turned face down, a piano that hadn't been touched in years, books with notes scribbled in the margins. This was a woman who had once loved deeply, who had lived loudly, who had lost everything in a single, unforgiving season of her life. Her bitterness was not cruelty. It was grief with nowhere to go. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, I found her asleep in her chair, her face unguarded, lines softened by rest. For the first time, I saw not the woman who challenged me, but the one who had survived unbearable loss. Something inside me cracked open. Compassion stopped being a choice and became instinct. From that moment on, staying was no longer about the job. It was about not repeating a cycle of abandonment that had already taken too much from her. Weeks turned into months. The tests became fewer. The criticism softened into observation. She began eating more, sleeping better. Sometimes I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, as if trying to understand why I was still there. Trust doesn't arrive with announcements. It tiptoes in when no one is watching. The real change came the day she fell. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet collapse in the hallway. For a brief second, fear stripped away her defenses. I helped her up, steady and calm, and in that moment, she allowed herself to lean on me fully. That small act held more meaning than 1,000 apologies. From then on, she stopped pretending she didn't need anyone. The house changed with her. Curtains were opened. The piano was dusted. Old photos returned to their frames. She began telling stories, not all at once, not easily, but honestly. Stories of love, of ambition, of a life interrupted. And I listened, not as an employee, but as a witness to a human being reclaiming pieces of herself she thought were gone forever. I realized something important during that time. Some people don't need fixing. They need someone to stay long enough to prove they are worth staying for. Kindness isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just shows up, again and again, until walls get tired of standing. Near the end of my time there, I understood that the challenge had never been whether I would last a week. The real question was whether either of us would be changed by the courage to endure discomfort for the sake of connection. We were. In ways neither of us expected. If this story reached something tender inside you, if it reminded you of someone you gave up on too soon or someone who stayed when you didn't think you deserved it, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your engagement helps stories of quiet humanity find the people who need them most. And before you leave, I have one special request. Please comment a single line below about a time kindness changed your life, or a time you wish you had stayed a little longer. Someone reading it may find the courage they didn't know they needed.